What's up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another review by me. Today we are doing things a little bit different. Normally we've been focused on multiplayer games, alphas, betas, etc. And that's where most of our reviews will continue to go, but we are reviewing today Star Wars Outlaws. I have the first mission playing behind me, and I'll let it play out when this review is over. But if you want to see a full gameplay, I'm currently uploading the gameplay in 2 parts a day on my single player channel, J Christ Plays, link down below. The final part will be uploaded on Saturday the 7th, so if you want to watch my playthrough of it, link down below. Also link the playlist down below, so channel and playlist link down there. But overall, it was a good game. It wasn't amazing. We'll get into more details as we go through my usual pros, so-sos, and cons. The game, I think, is worth checking out, especially if you have Ubisoft Plus. If it ever goes on sale, $70 I think is a little steep for this game, or if you're just a Star Wars fanatic that doesn't mind playing through something that is not canon, and I don't think this game will be canon. It could lead to stuff in the canon, maybe, like the Nyx, your sidekick, is a new species, and maybe his species becomes canon within the Star Wars universe. And he's adorable, so I hope so. But the game is fun. There's times where I think the game feels a little dated, a little clunky. There were some issues with loading in graphics, which, like I said, we'll talk about all this stuff more in detail as we go to pros, so-sos, and cons. But just the overview review of my experience with the game is I think it's worth checking if you can afford $70 and come away with not being amazed, but just, entertained. Or if you have Ubisoft Plus, if it comes to Game Pass, if you can get it on a discount, even $5-10 discount, I think makes it worth checking out. I just don't know if it's quite worth the full price. I'm glad I played through it. I had a good time playing through it. The game doesn't have anything that really makes it stand out. There are lots of fun parts. The story ends up being really good. There's some twists in the story. There's some good storytelling, but there's also parts where, like, I just got to get through this part so I can get to the good parts, and the experience could be clunky. So I do recommend the game. If I had to give it an out of 10, 6.5, 7 out of 10. Not amazing. Not a game I would say rush to go play, and not a game that I definitely think is worth full price. That more depends on what you can afford and what your gaming budget is like. But try it out if you have time for it, have the budget for it, or get an opportunity to play it. I think it is worth playing, especially if you're into Star Wars. As usual, we're going to start with cons, go into so-sos and pros, so we can go from worst to best about the game. The cons that we have, one of the big things was the movement felt very clunky, and you would often get stuck on things. The movement felt like it was a game from the mid to late 2010s, just some of the collision physics that would get you stuck on stuff. Felt really clunky and made the game feel dated. Another issue is that with the positioning before talking to characters, and what I mean by that is, like, in so many older games where you would go to talk to somebody, whether it was a side character, someone for your mission, to initiate a mission, whatever, you would, like, click start, and then it would take, like, a full second or two for the NPC and you to readjust, and that's what this game does. It feels like this game was in development a while ago, but didn't advance as gaming advanced. It kind of stuck in the time period that it started to be developed in, and that was something that's frustrating, but not a big deal. Not anything that really takes away from the gameplay, but it is kind of frustrating when it makes the game feel so dated. Another thing that was frustrating was oftentimes textures would not load. If you go watch through my playthrough, there'll just be a bunch of time where the graphics just don't look very good, and it's unfortunate because when all the textures load, this is actually a very beautiful game. The environments are beautiful, the characters are fairly well detailed, and it's overall a really good looking game, but when textures don't load in, obviously that gets completely ruined. Another frustrating issue was I had settings not saved, which is a bug that they can fix, but it is an issue that I ran into, where none of my graphics settings saved, a bunch of my game settings didn't save, and I didn't realize until I had hopped on the game that second time, and I was like hours in. And that was kind of frustrating, just another bug that shouldn't exist in the games. And then a final thing that isn't a bug or a dated thing is there was toggle only settings, like the ADS for your blaster. You had to toggle in and out of. I couldn't find a hold setting for it, at least not for controller. And it's really frustrating because there was times that I would die because I would be, like, in a tense situation and kind of panic and forget that I have to untoggle, or I couldn't get back into coverage, or I wouldn't move as fast. And even after you untoggled ADS, K-Vest holds out her gun, and for like a second, and you're slower, and you're standing straight up with your arm out, and it's just something that's pretty frustrating because it can get you killed in a game that I wouldn't say is super hard, but it's not super easy either. And You had also speeder acceleration wasn't like a hold to accelerate on your controller. It was either toggle or on, so there wasn't a lot of acceleration control, which led to the speeder being kind of hard to operate. Maybe that's a me problem, but it felt very hard to operate the speeder, especially in tight spaces, like when you got into cities, towns, whatever. It was really hard to operate the speeder and not crash a bunch. And there is a mission where you have to stay with somebody else on a speeder, and they were like slower at times, faster times, and without having the easy controls on the speeder, it made it harder to, stick with them. And, I crashed on a rock one time and went flying, and it was just hard to catch up because the thing's hard to drive. And not only that, the brake doesn't break unless it's also your handbrake for like drifting and stuff if you have the acceleration toggled on, and all of that kind of made the speeder really clunky, which is unfortunate because the speeder should have been one of the best parts of this game and should have been in my pro section. Unfortunately, it wasn't. So moving on to the so-sos, the first one is something we kind of already talked about. The graphics in this game, I put it under so-so because this game is gorgeous when it loads well, but it is an absolute resource hog. I think all of my Warzone settings on a big BR map with a bunch of players loaded in, the VRAM takes up like 4 gigabytes of VRAM or something like that. And this game with medium settings for everything took up 8 point something gigabytes of VRAM. Like an insane resource hog for a game that still had texture problems. And while the environments were beautiful, sometimes there was other graphics that I felt looked dated. But if you could play everything on high, this game would just be absolutely phenomenally gorgeous. And that's why it lands in the so-so and not in the cons, because the issues maybe would be different if I had a 4090. But you shouldn't need a 4090 to have a game that's beautiful that only takes up 50 gigabytes of hard drive space in 2024. And my other so-so, and I find this a lot with Star Wars games, even though this is a Ubisoft game and I've only played the EA games, Battlefield 2, and the 2 Jedi games. The Star Wars games are just so cutscene heavy, and it's not a con because the storytelling is very important, and, Star Wars is a rich tapestry of storytelling. They got series that have so many episodes, they got long movies, part of the Star Wars universe is the great storytelling, and the cutscenes do help tell the story a lot in Star Wars Outlaws. But the problem I have with it is I'm here to play a game, not watch a movie or watch a TV show. So I want to do that. I could load up Disney Plus and watch any Star Wars anything. So the cutscenes do help have that storytelling quality about Star Wars, but I'm playing a video game, not watching a movie. Those are my only so-sos. This list is really pros or cons, with the con list unfortunately being the longest. So we're going to move on into the pros now. The first thing is the mini games within the game. So you can play Sabacc, which there's actually a story mission where you have to go play Sabacc. So that was interesting, and you can go play Sabacc anytime you want. Then, within advancing through the story and finding stuff, there's 2 different mini games that come really into the main gameplay, and one of them is when you go to slice stuff, which, if you're not familiar with Star Wars, that's like hacking. They had a puzzle type game that was kind of like Star Wars Wordle, where you had symbols, and you had to put the symbols into the slots, and if it was the right symbol, it would stay blue, and then it would just sit there and you wouldn't have to guess that slot anymore. If it was a character that was in the puzzle but wasn't, it would go yellow like how Wordle does, and then you had to figure out where that goes. That was really fun. And then there was a rhythm game to picking locks with your data spike. And by the way, you can turn off the mini games if you want to make things extra easy for yourself, but it's a fun part of it. And I even have easy mode on the lock picking, where it's a visual guide and an audio guide, where it's more of an audio guide if you turn it off. But there's a mini game within that where it was like a beat, and when there would be a white circle inside the blue shaded area, and when the white circle comes, you have to hit your interact button, and it was a fun mini game. So it was a fun way to make the game more interactive and make situations more tense. And I really enjoyed the mini game aspects, plus the fun of being able to have Sabacc in the game. Another pro I have is, and this is a gameplay pro, is there's an always sprint setting, which I use because if I want to be sneaky, I'll crouch. But you can turn on a setting where anytime you're moving forward with KVS, you are always sprinting. And I like that because sometimes I feel like the movement in games is so slow, especially big open world games. And I like that I could always have sprint on, so I didn't have to keep clicking it. I think. 2 things that kind of go hand in hand here are your decisions affect the story and how the story plays out in the game. There's only a few major decisions within the game, but they do affect the story, the storytelling, and how the game plays out. And along with that, the different syndicates you have reputations with. So, you have like the Hutts, for example, is just one of them. And by the end of the game is 4, maybe 5 syndicates, and you can have different reputations with them, and you might do something that benefits your reputation with one syndicate and hurts it with the other, which I think is interesting. And I thought it was a good way to give the player some control over the storytelling and make the game more interactive with your decisions and your reputation. And the reputation would be like, each syndicate has areas or bases depending on the planets and the areas of the planet you're on. And if you had a good reputation, you could just walk freely into those areas. And depending on where you were in the game, if you had a poor reputation, you'd either be escorted out or you would be fired upon. And you can change the dynamics of how the world interacts with you based off of your reputation. The last pro that I have is this is a non-Jedi story. If you played Battlefield 2 campaign, which I recently played, or Squadrons, which has terrible reviews, I've yet to play, but I'm gonna, because I'm just working through all the Star Wars canon as a first-time Star Wars fan this year. It was nice to have a non-Jedi, and honestly, non-Empire story, even though the Empire is involved, non-separatist story, like none of the main focuses of the Star Wars shows or movies were part of this game. You were just a random scoundrel in the galaxy far, far away. And I think that was a cool way to look at a different aspect of the Star Wars universe. Because we're always focused on the warring factions, the Rebels, the Empire, the Separatists, the Republic, the Jedi, the Sith. We're always so focused on the main aspects from the movies and the TV shows, even if it's like the Jedi game, where like Darth Vader makes an appearance. But we're still focusing on Jedis and the histories of Jedis and the futures of Jedis. This is just random people in the Star Wars universe that would be in a cantina or something, and I really like that. So overall, I do think that this game is a game worth playing. I don't think the pros are, the pro list might be shorter, but I don't think the cons take away from the pros or the so-sos take away from the pros enough to make this a game not worth playing, especially if you're a Star Wars lover. Some people have not had such positive views. Some people think this game's bad, but most of those people have never played it and are just feeding off what the internet says. So don't listen to them. You don't have to listen to me, but I definitely think if you get the opportunity, share play, borrowing it from a friend if it's a hard copy, Ubisoft Plus, get it on a discount, whatever. Check this game out if you're into Star Wars, especially if you're tired of it always being about Jedi and the main wars of Star Wars. Definitely an interesting way to look at the universe. Definitely a game that I would recommend more than I wouldn't. And just an overall fun game, in my opinion. And it was worth the about 15 or 16 hours it took me to go through the story. And if you're into open world games, I don't think this one is unique feeling. I don't think it has a huge uniqueness to it other than being the first Star Wars open world game. But it is Star Wars. It is open world. So if you like open world, there's plenty of side quests you can do. There's mini games. There's arcade games, which I didn't even touch on in the pros. But you can go find arcade machines and play arcade games. And there's a lot to like at this game. And the negatives, most of them can be fixed. I mean, the texture's not loading. The getting stuck on things with the collision physics, those can be fixed. Toggle settings, they can have add hold settings. The settings not savings, a bug they can fix. Whereas the pros are things that they would not change and are well-executed things. And even the so-sos with the graphics could change. And the cutscene heavy is just kind of part of Star Wars. So overall, I do think the game's about a 6.5, 7. Probably closer to 7 than 6.5 out of 10. Like I've said a million times, game worth trying out for yourself. If you try it out for yourself, let me know down in the comments what you think. If you're not going to try it, let me know why you won't try it. And don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you like this type of content from me and want to see it first. And don't forget to check out the gameplay on my J Christ Plays channel, link down below. And I will see you in the next review. Have a good day. Bye.
There's gotta be a way past him.
I'm max leveled already for the weekend. So I took a break and switched to Star Wars. How do I get into this offer? Can I swipe a card from somewhere?
Hey, get up. Way to go. Keycard for the storage.
Got it.
Reven's plan said the vents in there lead to the office.
Go. And it was a one-use key card. The level cap's 20 for this one. Next week it goes up to 30. Of course, love. That was kind of brutal.
Okay, let's pick that log, grab the identicard, and disappear.
Definitely gonna. I feel like we're definitely getting caught here. I'm bad at this. Holy. There you go.
Look at that.
Course,
Here they
love.
are.
And you do hold your own.
Oh, come on, Preben. Your plans didn't have a pressure switch.
It's K-Vest!
It's Varric. This is bad. Watch out, Nick. Now! Get that back to Nix.
Okay.
Okay, we gotta get out of here.
Oh, I'm hitting X to interact. Playing COD.
It wasn't supposed to go down this way. What have I done? Get him, Nix.
Thank you, Nix.
Okay, Nix. Let's try to stun them. Go get him, buddy. Really not the time to eat, buddy. Time to distract them, Nix.
Where do we go now? Damn, K. But K-Vest is violent. Holy. The champ. That is where we came from. I just went in a circle. Throw that ass in a circle. Throw that ass in a circle. Hey. Can I steal this? No, I can't steal that.
What are we gonna do, Nix? I never counted on getting caught. Okay, we got the identicard. The hook. We'll be safe there. We lay low for a while. We don't leave the attic. Yeah.
Somebody's humble abode. Do get out this way.
Come on, back to the cantina. It's the only place we'll be safe. No
Come on,
room.
Nixie.
Good. That's a conversation I don't need.